All right, we are live. We'll let it breathe just for a moment. Bring on Facebook. Get things rocking. Hang tight. And welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, once again, joined by my fellow football priest and partner in crime, Zack Kelberman, on a night, Zack, where the Nuggets are throwing down. I think of the finals games that have been played so far, only one of them have not been on a night that we're streaming. But it's okay because you know what? Nuggets, they're going to tip off in about 20 minutes or no, 12 minutes. They could clinch it. This could be it. Another championship, Zack, could be brought home to Denver. This is a Broncos podcast, but hey, man, the Denver Nuggets have a chance to make history tonight. Got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm not too mad about them conflicting with our podcast because they will clinch tonight. They'll bring the first championship home in Nuggets history and make way for the Broncos. First it was the Avs, then the Nuggets, then the Broncos, I think, are next up to capture glory again. So can't wait for that.
A couple of early super chats. I just want to jump right in because really appreciate you guys so much. Troy, yo, great to see you, big dog. I saw your explanation, by the way, last night on Twitter in my mentions of Fawn Donkey. And then when I went to quote tweet it, thank you for explaining, it was disappeared. So I guess you were having some phone problems, but thank you for the explanation. It says, hey guys, the Patriots are working out DJ Fluker. Is he someone the Broncos should look at too? So, Zack, we've talked about the need to add perhaps one more kind of proven interior guy on the O-line. What are your thoughts on Fluker, former tackle that the NFL liked inside?
Yeah, I've seen the workout transformation. He's lost a ton of weight. He looks to be in great shape physically. You wonder about his time away from football, how that's impacted him in terms of being game ready. I haven't heard anything of Denver being interested, and I feel like when they re-signed Cameron Fleming, I feel like that was their big splurge on the O-line for the summer. I don't think they're going to look back to DJ Fluker. They might pick someone up when training camp rolls around and cuts are made, or they want to see what these young guys can do. We mentioned them yesterday, some of the younger players they have along the interior. I don't see DJ Fluker as a viable option for the Broncos, but you never know.
Thanks again, Troy. We'll grab these supers right out of the gates. Nothing really happening today by way of news. There are some storylines we want to get to tonight and touch on. Of course, whatever's on y'all's mind, we will definitely spend some time on. But out of respect for the Nuggets game, we will probably keep tonight's stream relatively tight. So if there are any burning topics, subjects you want us to get to, get them in the chat ASAP, and we'll do our best. Gyla Maples jumping in with a super sticker.
Thank
really
you, Gyla.
Appreciate you, big dog. What's left, Gyla wants to know, that we need? So, Zack, if we cast our gaze upon this roster, a lot of improvements. You know, there's been a lot of gin gout, as they say, garbage in, garbage out, garbage in a sense of like it's just, byproduct of football. But I think for the most part, it's a significantly improved roster. But what do you think is left?
What do they need? They need the games to start already so we can see the product on the field and not just on paper. It looks really good, especially with Sean Payton as head coach, but we don't know until we know. To answer the question more seriously, they need, I would say, a defensive end, Chad, or D-line depth in general. They can probably use a center because I'm not crazy about Lloyd Cushenberry starting there. And like we just talked about, maybe another interior guard to back up Powers and Miners.
Someone at Broncos HQ, pardon me, really loves them, some Lloyd Cushenberry. I mean, I thought it must have been John Elway, but it turns out it's somebody else. Maybe it is George Payton after all. I don't know. But yes, a little D-line depth. I feel a lot better, Zack, about the edge rushing group. I could use a little bit more D-line depth, just because once you get past the trio of starters, and I guess they're not even earmarking Mike Purcell, Zack, as a starter, at least for right now. It's Jonathan Harris, DJ Jones, and then, of course, Zach Allen, the newcomer. So you do have a Mike Purcell, if that does end up being your starting trio. You do have that veteran depth there, and then two young guys in Matt Henningsen and Owazarike. But I think one more name would really make me feel better up front. David, the Papa Bear, what's going on, brother? Appreciate that very early super chat. Good evening, right back at you. MHH for life. Buckham with a B, he says. Denver Broncos for life. Really appreciate you, big dog. Good to see you tonight. And then Sam Bam in the hizzy. Love it. Legendary, pivotal figure in our community. Sam has been on the show Awesome dude. Much love and respect, Sam. Says, good evening, guys. Can't wait to see this new and improved O-line this year. Hopefully they stay healthy. Also, good luck, Nuggets fans. I think tonight is the night. Pardon me. I do too, for what it's worth. I think this is the night history gets made, and the Nuggets get to break that ice, so to speak, for Denver in terms of bringing an NBA championship home. Really, really cool. But this new and improved O-line, Zach, for all our doubts about Lloyd Cushenberry, it is a pretty formidable starting five. I mean, even with Cushenberry as the middle guy, Garett Bolles was talking about this. I wrote an article about it today. Go read it after the show, guys, when you get some time. But Ben Powers right next to him at left guard, Cush, another dog, right, to use the verbiage that Bolles was using, in Quinn Miners, and then a dog in Mike McGlinchey. Got to feel pretty good about that starting five. But what do you have at depth? I mean, at least you got Cam Fleming, who's got some, some live bullet experience. Interior guys, though, as far as depth, the closest thing you have to an experienced dude is Kyle Fuller. And I don't know how much of I would want to hang my hat on him.
I wouldn't either. He's a backup plan. You also have Alex Forsythe, who the Broncos drafted, but I feel like he's a project for at least a year. They don't want to throw him into the starting fray too soon. Not much by way of guard depth, though. I mean, there's not a tangible name in there like a Cam Fleming, a veteran that you can lean on. That's why I feel like they need to sign one more guy. But with the case of Cushenberry, we both don't like him that much in terms of him being a starter, but you can't have Pro Bowlers everywhere. The Broncos did a bang-up job upgrading right tackle, which has been a 5-year-long weakness, and adding Ben Powers at left guard. You can't have Pro Bowlers everywhere. So if the weakest link is Cushenberry and Sean Payton and Zach Strief, the new OL coach, feel like they can get the most out of him, then I'm willing to give him one more shot.
While we're on the subject of Bolles, all right, I loved his – I consider it a bold prediction of sorts, but this was Bolles on the record, pardon me, for the first time, Zach, talking about Mike McGlinchey. Quote, I love Mike. I think he's a phenomenal tackle. There's a reason why he was high in free agency and we brought him here. Just the last couple of years, we've gone through so many different right tackles, and to have a guy that's going to be there for the next 5 years is special. Sky's the limit for him. I feel like we could be the best duo of tackles in the league. Close quote. What do you think, Zach?
I think Garett Bolles needs to worry about Garett Bolles. You know, Mike McGlinchey should be far and away the best right tackle the Broncos have had in more than a half decade. But Garett has been, Garett holds at times. He's been Garett Bolles at times. He's been consistent. He's been inconsistent. That 2020 season looks like an aberration where they, linemen were getting called for holding a lot less in that COVID shortened year. No more Mike Munchak. They have a new OL coach in Zach Strief. But Garett needs to be consistent. Otherwise, like we talked about yesterday, he is a prime cap casualty for 2024 if he doesn't show that prior form.
Hey, quick shout out, Albert Knoppers. Thanks for popping in before your meeting, big dog. Mike Ronquillo, always a pleasure to see you in the chat. Always a pleasure to chop it up with you afterwards on Twitter and whatnot as well, my friend. You're just such a valuable piece of our community. So thank you, as always, for the support and just being that bright personality and encourager that you are, man. We really appreciate you. Phil down in Tucson, what's going on, my brother? He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Sending prayers to the Turner family. What a great Denver Bronco player. Hashtag Buckham MHH for life. Indeed, Zach, there was a passing in Bronco amongst a lot of, younger fans don't know this name, but he was a guy that when he retired, Zach, as a kicker, he was the second all-time leading scorer in the league when he retired, but passed away today. I think he was 82 years old. So RIP to the man.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers to Turner's family and friends. It's always unfortunate when anyone passes, and he will always have a great place in Broncos history and also Jets history. He was, I think, on their Super Bowl III team as the kicker, if I'm not mistaken. But, regardless, one of the best of his time, and he will be remembered in Broncos canon for sure.
I'm going to look that up real quick at the risk of my screen doing a stupid little delay thing. So Jim Turner, Zach, Jets 64 through 70. All right. Broncos 71 through 79. So that first Super Bowl appearance the Broncos made, he was on that roster for what it's worth. So Lawrence, what's going on, brother? Great to see you. He says, "What's up, guys? Is all this rain in Colorado for putting the heat out? Let's go Nuggets." Yeah, let's hope, man. I don't see any reason why they don't clinch it. I mean, the Heat kind of made you doubt for a second, maybe that perhaps the Joker and all that momentum might end here. Perhaps there's a chance, who knows? But they quickly put any end to that notion. I think it gets locked in tonight, Zach.
Yeah, and the Joker showed up wearing all black to the arena today. I think he's preparing for a funeral and to put the Heat out of their misery once and for all. I do think the Nuggets close it out tonight, and I'm looking forward to watching that game.
Zach, I wanted to ask you about your article today, and I always really struggle saying this fella's name.
Beats me.
But the Broncos, what is he, 6'8"?
He's 6'7", 320, I think, something like that.
What was it that Sean Payton said about the guy that's here on that? What's the name of the NFL program? I'm going to botch it. I'll let you tell the story, but I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, the International Pathway Player Program. It allows players from different parts of the world to get a shot or at least some exposure in the NFL. No different than the Coaching Accelerator program that Christian Parker was taking part in. But the Broncos were awarded, I'm not going to even attempt to butcher his name. He's a massive defensive lineman. They got him last month. A offensive tackle convert, spent a little time in Arizona last year, but besides that, he is an infant when it comes to football. He found the game on YouTube. He's Nigerian born, so not from the U.S. He found football on YouTube, and that started it all for him, his love of the game. He went to some camps in London. He's taken part in combines and pro days and everything, and the Broncos, again, were awarded him last month, and Sean Payton says he likes him. He noted that he's acing all the early tests, but he said the real test will come when the pads go on. It's hard to really tell what a trench player can do in shells and just T-shirts and shorts, but they like him. And like I wrote, the defensive line is wide open. And when you were talking earlier about the starters, there's really only two I can think of that are locked into starting roles. And that would be Zach Allen and DJ Jones. Besides them, it's wide open for playing time. I don't know if Debussy, I'm not again.
Yeah, and Debussy, Chisholm, and Debussy.
HCN. Like I'm gonna call him that from now on. If he can show HCN, well,
yeah.
If he can show well, and if he makes it that far to training camp, he might have a little bit of a Mike Purcell role. But then again, they have Mike Purcell and they have Tyler Lancaster, two prototypical nose tackles. And HCN would be that prototypical nose tackle as well. So interesting story. I enjoyed writing it, and we'll see where he goes.
I wanted also, Zach, while we're on the subject of some of the storylines from the last time the Broncos gave us a little media availability, Cortland Sutton, come on, baby, pause for me. Thank you. We've talked a little bit on the show about the slant god, all right, as he is known, Michael Thomas, and what kind of, who amongst the Broncos wide receivers might be able to kind of carve themselves out that kind of a role in Sean Payton's scheme here. And it was very interesting to hear Cortland Sutton say this right here, quote, "It's interesting. I actually just got, not too long ago, maybe a week or two ago, I just got Michael Thomas's 2019 targets, the tape, all right, from his year that he broke the record. Just diving into it, I've been able to see how many or how he may have ran a route that we're learning right now, figuring out ways to be able to get open, because obviously he had a really good year that year. So to be able to find ways to implement the things he did well into my game, I feel like we're going to have a lot of success." And yes, Zach, it was a record-breaking campaign, 149 receptions, a little over 1,700 yards that year, and 9 touchdowns. So what do you think about Sutton becoming the next slant god?
Kind of similar to the Garett Bolles answer, I feel like Cortland should worry about being Cortland Sutton and get back to being the Cortland Sutton we saw before that knee injury, where he was dominating cornerbacks and making 80-20 balls happen. But it's smart on his part as well to at least present the appearance like he's buying into the program completely, studying tape of former Saints players under Sean Payton. Because if he wants longevity in the NFL, if he wants to see more money on his current contract or another contract, he's got to put better tape out there for his own sake. It's not been good the last few years. He's been missing passes, giving up on plays, showing an outward disdain, I feel like, for the offense or the quarterback or the play calling. No excuses for Cortland now. He's fully healthy. He'll get better quarterback play, better coaching. It's up to him to go out there and be that dominant Sutton like we used to see.
Well said. Well said. All right, let me dive back into the chat. Again, guys, we're going to keep tonight a little bit brief just because, we don't want to take away from the Nuggets being able to clinch a NBA championship here. But I think, Zach, honestly, by the way, Jason, what's up? Good to see you, big dog. Jason O'Neill in the house. I think a lot of people are of a similar mind as us tonight because it is such a possibly historic moment here for the Denver Nuggets. But there are a couple things real quick before we maybe start kind of winding our way down. There's an article that I wrote over the weekend, all right, kind of breaking down what we've only had really, Zach, 3 opportunities to hear from veteran players since Sean Payton took over as head coach. There was the rookie minicamp, which obviously not veterans. We got to hear from a few of the draft picks there. And then there have been 3 days only, Zach, that Sean Payton has made players available at the podium. And so I went through and I found every reference to Sean Payton. In other words, when a player was asked about what their first impressions have been of Sean Payton as head coach, how is it going with Sean Payton as head coach, etc. And I took that, made sure everybody understood what was said, and then kind of analyzed the implications. And so in the spirit of that article, guys, go read it when you get a chance. I wanted to ask you, so far, here we are now, halfway through June. Tomorrow begins the mandatory minicamp, and then it's that 6-week brutal NFL summer where there is nothing going on. You don't have a draft to look forward to. You don't have free agency to look forward to. There's nobody in the building. So considering that that's going on this week and then it's the desert, what have been your biggest takeaways so far from Sean Payton as head coach of the Broncos? Like, what have you learned about him so far?
It's a really, really interesting question. I'm glad you asked that. Number one, and I hate to overuse this expression because we've said it a lot, but an adult is back in charge. There's your favorite expression, extreme competency back at head coach. It's not a rookie. It's not a first timer. It's not some guy who's too scared for the big moment. It's a guy who's been there and done that and commands respect anytime he walks into the room. Going off of that, every player, even the more mercurial ones like Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, whoever, they seem to have all bought in immediately to the culture change and the ideals and the values that Sean Payton is instilling. And it's not easy to do, cleaning up the mess of his predecessors, VJ, Vic, Nathaniel Hackett. He came into an untenable situation. He was paid a lot of money, but we're seeing why. I love the fact that the Broncos are putting an emphasis on strength and conditioning. He's done nothing but rave about Bo Larry and Dal Rimple and the new strength and conditioning departments, and just putting an emphasis on being a grittier, hard-nosed, tougher, disciplined football team. And a lot of that won't come out until at least preseason or the regular season when the games are going on. But the little glimpses and the breadcrumbs that we've been privy to have been just night and day different than anything we've seen since at least Gary Kubiak and maybe even before that, Mike Shanahan. So just a steadying hand that, as an added bonus, is also an offensive guru and is the key to unlocking the Broncos' biggest mystery, Russell Wilson. I think it's been outstanding so far.
Great points, man. There's a few themes that every player, whether they were on offense or defense, kept landing on. One of them was he's very blunt in terms of how he communicates, right? Which is good. Like if you think back to obviously fictionized, based on a true story thing, right? Historical fiction that is Moneyball. All right. There's that scene, Zach, where Billy Beane tells his, GM assistant guy played by Jonah Hill to go cut or tell a player, that he's been traded. And he's like, yo, I can't do that. I can do that. And he goes, well, no, you can do it. Come on, let's role play. You do it with me. And so he goes through and he's this long-winded thing and he just cuts him off. He goes, what are you talking about, dude? These are professionals. These are men. All right. Just be blunt with them. Just be direct. That's what they need. And I'm reminded of that when I hear how some of these players in Denver are talking about Sean Payton, which is, look, out of respect for them, out of respect also for what he's trying to accomplish, direct, blunt, to the point. He's not going to sugarcoat things for better or for worse. I mean, not necessarily for better or for worse, but whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, he's just going to come out to the point and say it. Josie Jewell called him transparent. He's been called by a lot of different guys, just marveling over his chops as a teacher. His ability to take a complex idea and distill it down into something that people can understand and assimilate themselves and duplicate. His attention to detail, Zach, which you talked about, is probably the biggest thing that everybody's kind of like minds blown as far as the players. Like, I don't even think they fully appreciated just how many levels down, when you talk about a deep diver and a guy that's going to master the nuances and take joy in the nuances and utilize the nuances as an opportunity for the Broncos to be better than their opponents. They're really stoked on that. And I think it all shakes out. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff. Go read that article, but it's definitely a breath of fresh air for the Broncos.
You mentioned the tough love being blunt, and it's exactly what the Broncos needed after players, coaches in VJ, and especially Nathaniel Hackett. And we talked about it a ton last season. When you're overly kind, when you're everyone's best friend, when you're trying to ingratiate yourself and you're worried about being disliked, people will take your kindness for weakness. Whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, you have to be blunt and command respect. And that's the number one thing Sean Payton did when he came in. We're not doing it like we did last year. This is not how we did it in New Orleans. Yeah, they're going to play in preseason. Yeah, we're going to be in strength and conditioning a lot longer. Yeah, we're going to have 9-on-7 drills. And yes, Russell Wilson is one of the 53. He will be coached harder. No more entourages, no more catering, no more special rules for number 3 just because he's highly paid. It is the biggest blessing the Broncos could have been bestowed in hiring Sean Payton.
Gary Palmer in the house, the GLP. What's going on, big dog? Great to see you. Thank you for throwing down a super chat tonight. Could definitely use it. Very kind of quiet night. Not a lot going on by way of news. And obviously everybody really excited about the game tonight. So really appreciate you, buddy. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, Scott, and Dylan. Nuggets in 5. Go Broncos. I think that's how it's going to shake out. Naj, man, talk about a legend. Here he is. And you know what? Up until recently, Zach, I got to admit, I wasn't that into the NBA either. All right. But I've recently gotten over the last year or so back into the NBA. But Naj, so I feel you, bud. But he says, hey, brothers, I'm not into the NBA, but I wanted to wish you bros in the community the best of luck with the Nuggets. Enjoy, my bros. Yeah, I'm not. I got to admit, I'm a fan of the Nuggets, Zach, in the sense that, I want to see him succeed. It's good for the city. I didn't grow up a Denver Nuggets fan. Like, I'm not like, oh, Nuggets. I'm stoked for what it means and the implications. And trust me, right now I'm a Nuggets fan. I want them to win it all and bring that to the city, and for Nuggets fans in Denver and whatnot to have that experience. But the NBA, I kind of fell out of love with it in the immediate aftermath of, we'll just call it the Michael Jordan era, early Kobe, Shaq era. And then from there, I kind of just lost interest in it. But I don't know. Did you ever have any kind of fanhood in the NBA?
No, I was always a football guy first and foremost, then a baseball guy second, and the occasional hockey guy number 3. But I was born and raised in South Florida for 26 years of my life. And let me tell you something right now. There are no more fair weather fans than Heat fans, or pretty much any, Dolphin fans, whatever. But Heat fans are particularly bad. Even in the LeBron days, when they weren't winning, it would be a ghost town. You wouldn't hear anything. When they won a game, you would hear constant chirping. I despise fans like that. So it's a little bit of like personal satisfaction that the Nuggets can close it out tonight. I am a Nuggets fan for sure.
Very cool. Taylor, what's going on, big dog? Great to see you. Love the profile pic, the trio of Lombardis in the Broncos trophy case. So cool. Thank you for the super chat. He says, Sean Payton, let's see, Sean Payton different than we're used to, and that's a great thing. Hopefully the Broncos follow the Avalanche, and soon the Nuggets go Broncos country.
Preach.
How rad would that be? I mean, I don't know. Has that ever happened in the history of pro sports where those dominoes for 3 different sports have fallen like that, so close to each other? I don't know. I'm not much of a historian outside of the NFL, but yeah, go Nuggets. We'll see.
I'm trying to think, like, in the Patriots dynasty days, did the Bruins ever, or then the Celtics, they were in the finals. I don't think it's ever happened.
I don't know, man. What year was it that the Red Sox, Scott, you're a baseball guy. What was it that the year the Red Sox finally overcame the curse of the Bambino? Was that
04, wasn't
04?
it? Yeah.
Wasn't it 04? Patriots 02 and 0, or let's see. 01 missed a year, 02 03 world champs. And then so they didn't cross paths championship year window style with the Red Sox. And then it seems like those Garnett teams, of the Celtics, right? That era of Celtics basketball. It seems like that success was a little bit beyond that first Patriots dynasty as well. But that's a good point. If there was anyone, it probably would have been that city.
But as it pertains to Denver, this would be unprecedented, and I'm so happy for Nuggets fans to finally, hopefully, get that feeling of scaling the mountaintop. We talked about the Avalanche, and the Broncos are next up, man. I'm happy that the series will be out of the way one way or the other, because then it becomes prime football season, and I can't wait for the Broncos to get back on the field.
Exactly. Daniel on Facebook says, Auntie Murphy rule. If anything can go well, it will. Anti-Murphy rule. Yes. Okay, I got you. So the Murphy's law, anything that could go wrong will, right? So he's saying the anti-Murphy rule, if anything can go well, it will. I'm feeling very optimistic again. I love the idea of another Nigerian nightmare on defense. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it would be rad to see something come of it. I mean, his odds are pretty stiff. I mean, the NFL is really trying to incentivize teams to find a place for these guys in this program, Zach. But I got to tell you, I mean, especially a team like the Broncos, where it's been 7 dark years. I think for Sean Payton, it's where does that bear squat in the woods? You know, he's a bottom line kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that there's going to be enough there for him to stick this time around. But if he does, I'm going to be rooting him along. I mean, I'm going to be stoked if he does, but because the Broncos could use some, we talked about earlier, some depth, some additional help there on the D line.
Well, listen, even if he doesn't crack the 53, which seems unlikely, if he makes the practice squad, that would be huge for HCN, because, again, he only learned of the sport about 5 years ago and is such a newcomer to it. His ceiling is still limitless, and the Broncos can mold him to be what they need him to be. If it's just a run stuffer at 6'7", 315 pounds, so be it. Hard to get around those guys, Chad.
Indeed. Guys, real quick, we're on the tail end here. We're going to keep tonight really brief so everybody can watch the Nuggets game and not feel, drawn away from it. But while you're here with us, guys, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, give us a quick like on the page, on the video. Helps us out a lot. Mike, thank you so much, as always, for the support, big dog. He's like, look, Nuggets game is on. You know, it's like people's loyalty is being split, and we feel you. So that's why we're going to keep tonight relatively short. Zach, were there any other topics that we needed to get to tonight that we have yet to touch on?
I don't think between last night and today anything groundbreaking happened. We'll know more as the week goes on, because the Broncos are going to have a mandatory minicamp that starts tomorrow. So Thursday's show should be lit, and hopefully then, Chad, we'll be celebrating the Nuggets' first world title.
I think so. There's just one last thing here I want to touch on. I do it reluctantly because I don't want to give this dude's channel. So I'm not going to flash it, but here's what Yoda says. All right. Yoda at 634, a YouTuber, I'm not going to throw his handle out there, made a video a week ago on every team's predictions this year and thinks the Broncos are going to finish last place for a 4th time in a row at 6-11 when they have Sean Payton.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, as someone that does quite well on YouTube, spends quite a lot of time on YouTube, I never heard of this cat's channel. Have you, Zach?
You stole my thunder, man. I was going to say that's why no one's ever heard of him, Yoda. I mean, that's why he's a no one. His football knowledge is obviously basement dwelling, so I'm not going to pay him too much mind. 6-11, barring an injury to Russell Wilson or worse, ain't going to happen. Let them say what they want. Let them hate.
Let them hate, baby. Sam, I'm not sure what the new emojis in the chat do. We should probably figure that out. All right, guys, I think we're going to call it for tonight. All right, let's join together rooting the Nuggets on. Before we dip on out of here, though, a couple of quick messages.
That was another fantastic, if brief, episode of the MHH podcast. If you're not doing so, follow us on Twitter at the MHH pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter, the mothership account at Mile High Huddle. Chad is at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. See the hats we're rocking, the merch we're rocking. You guys can get some for yourself at mhhmerch.com. Check that out if you haven't already. If you're on Facebook, like us at facebook.com/milehuddlepod. If you're on Instagram, follow us at mile_high_huddle. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football pre-save 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, please, guys and gals, subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really, really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you, baby.
So good. I love it. Appreciate you guys so much. Quick shout out to these Super Chat superstars tonight. Troy, Gyla, David, Sam Bam, Gary, Naj, Taylor. And then on Facebook, I'm trying to pull up the super supporters tonight, but it's being a little bit slow. So bear with me. I don't know what's going on here. But of course, Mike Ronquillo, Phil McLaughlin, Lawrence Rivera, much love and respect. Scott, tomorrow, Broncos for breakfast, right? Broncos for breakfast. All right. So, for those of you scratching your heads, where to go, the Monday morning show. While everyone's doing the NFL, 6-week thing, that's what Nick and Scott are doing as well. So until training camp starts, there won't be Monday shows. There will be Tuesday morning shows, Thursday morning shows. So those stay in the rotation. But Daniel, hey, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your support. Hope you know that. But yeah, so tomorrow night, Broncos, building the Broncos. Wednesday, you got some Mile High Insiders, and then we'll be back Thursday night. It's going to be great because, Zach, not only do we have minicamp going the next 3 days, mandatory minicamp, and then the NFL Desert, but got to expect we're going to hear from Coach Payton. Got to expect we're going to hear from a few more players one last time before we get to that desert. So there should be quite a bit to talk about Thursday night. It'll be dope.
It would be nice to hear from the Broncos offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, and the Broncos special teams coordinator, and Ben Kotwika, Mike Westhoff, Chris Banjo, whoever they want to put up. VJ, just to hear him again, the old friend VJ. We'll hopefully get that in training camp, but this week should be interesting with the Broncos having a mandatory minicamp, and attendance is required for that. But we'll talk about it more on Thursday. Enjoy the game tonight. Have a great start to your week. We got Brad coming in.
Just wanted to give him a shout out. Thanks, Brad.
Yes, sir. Been watching for a few years. Been a fan since the Red Miller days. Deep in Packers country now. Oh, no. Never miss an MHH show. Y'all are superstars. Rock on, MHH. Appreciate you, Brad. And hopefully you can make it out to the meet and greet when the Broncos are playing the Packers on October 22nd. But regardless, we appreciate your support. Have a great night, everyone. See you Thursday evening. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.